This is Watson Michael from Ceylon Institute of English and Leadership. And we're glad to have a guest with us who comes from a very, very interesting background. He's Captain Kieran Kelly. So he has a very interesting story. So Captain Kelly, could you introduce yourself and let us know how did you end up in this role?
First of all, good morning. Good morning from Jakarta. It's good to meet you. Good to be speaking with you. How I ended up in the role, I guess, was a little bit different than the average environmentalist. I grew up in the south coast of Ireland, a small little fishing village called Helvig. My family had been involved in the maritime sector, going back with hundreds of years.
Okay.
Shortly after leaving school, I went away and I did my captain's license, and I entered into the industry again, like the rest of my family, I guess, for many, many generations prior to that.
Okay.
I fished in Ireland for years.
Wow.
And then with the family business.
Okay.
Then because of overfishing and climate change and pollution.
Yeah.
Multiple problems. Everyone thinks Ireland is this fantastic, green, clean country, which it is in many ways.
Okay.
But being a member of the European Union has been a disaster for coastal communities.
Okay.
The European Union fishing fleet absolutely devastated our waters, stole all our fish, and of course, destroyed biodiversity around the Irish coast.
Yeah.
I emigrated to the United States shortly after that, and again opened up the first fishing company in the city of Gloucester in Massachusetts. Gloucester was a city that was made famous on TV with movies like The Perfect Storm and other little other TV programs are like that. Within a couple of years, I had fishing operations on the east and I was fishing on the west coast of the United States.
Okay.
Also through Central and South America.
Yeah.
I became an environmentalist, I guess, because of people like me. Again, what people like me were actually doing to the ocean. Again, it wasn't sustainable. We were absolutely devastating marine life, and of course, I got a conscience at some stage, and I became an environmentalist.
Okay.
I'm a big advocate now for sustainable fishing.
Yes.
And of course, a clean ocean.
Yes.
So now we operate around the world in multiple locations.
Wow.
And again, we target marine debris, marine plastic.
Yeah.
We're the largest company in the world regarding that space.
Okay.
And of course, we're constantly expanding and constantly looking to increase the collections of plastic there globally.
Wow. So it's a pretty inspiring story, right? So your family was in the fishing industry for generations, and finally you moved out from that and you came into sustainability. Great. So, and you are posting some great content we see on LinkedIn, Captain Kelly. And how would you define plastic pollution?
Plastic pollution is probably the single biggest threat to our planet. I think people don't realize that. People look at conflicts and wars and everything else, and of course, that's all a brutal problem and very emotional, I guess, for a lot of people that are caught up in these horrific situations. But the problem with marine debris, most people don't understand how serious it really is.
Yeah.
The plastics, once it gets into the ocean, it breaks down very, very quickly. If it settles in shallow water, plastic, where a lot of the scientific community will say will last for thousands of years, these small pieces of plastic.
Yes.
Once these plastics, they make it to the ocean floor. With the moving sand back and forth over the plastic, if that plastic is in shallower water, shallower than 10 meters of water, this plastic will only last a matter of months. It'll break down that fast.
Yes.
The sand will just shave it down, and it will just disappear into microplastics.
Yeah.
Once that happens, these microplastics, they float to the surface. Once that happens, that microplastics, again, they float through the higher column of water.
Okay.
And once that happens, of course, all the different toxins and the chemicals and so on in the water
Yeah.
attaches itself to the microplastics and the nanoplastics.
Yes.
The plankton itself, when it rises to the surface in the nighttime to feed, they see this as a food source and they actually eat it. Once they eat it, the plankton is dying. If we lose the plankton, continue to lose the plankton, like we're losing it right now, we're in serious trouble. Life as we know it will not exist in 20 years from today. We cannot survive. People will have to realize over 70% of the oxygen on our planet comes from our ocean, not from our rainforest, comes from our ocean.
Wow.
A healthy ocean is crucial for the survival of our species, humans.
Yes.
We cannot survive without that. Our lung capacities are quite small. And again, like, we cannot survive. We're a lot weaker than what we actually think. People seem to think we're this invincible race of people, and we're invincible. All people are invincible. That's not true. Again, like, we have a brutal problem. And of course, microplastic is doing that. One of the things that I find really troubling is the way that we report and we record the problems surrounding ocean plastic.
Okay.
People, for years, we have gauged, again, and I mean we as the global community, we have looked at the problems with plastic. We've recorded plastics that's floating down the rivers and get into the ocean.
Yes.
Up to 95% of the plastics that gets into our ocean is coming from rivers all around the world. Up to 95%.
Wow.
Is coming down our rivers. So the plastic itself that's coming down the rivers, we record it from, again, through aerial footage, drone footage, satellite imagery, you name it. We calculated that the tonnage of plastic coming down the river was 8 million tons, then 10 million tons. Then some people said last year up to 13 million tons. We think it's 3 to 4 times that number.
Okay.
The reason we think it's so high is we have technologies to retrieve plastics, again, in the rivers. But the thing that we found really staggering is the sheer volume of plastic that actually should be floating on the river surface. It's actually not. This plastic here is a piece of LDP. This plastic itself would normally float, right? This plastic would normally float, like, there on the surface of the river.
Yes.
What happens to this plastic when it gets into the river, because of the sediments and the soils and everything else that's, again, getting cavitating through the water column, it attaches itself to the plastic. So the buoyancy, whatever buoyancy this plastic has, this plastic sinks to the to the riverbed. Once that happens, then the plastic, of course, we're not recording it. The plastic rolls along like a plastic bag going down the street. It rolls along on the riverbed all the way down to the reach of the ocean. Once it reaches the ocean with the sediment on it, it will stay on the ocean floor till it starts to break down. As it breaks down, the pieces of sediment and stuff that's on the plastic will be knocked off it, and the plastics will start to float. The microplastics will start to float. Some of the plastics, when it reaches the ocean, because of the salinity level in the ocean, again, like, the plastic, again, will be bit more buoyant. It will float. Some of the plastics that will float, once little animals start to grow on this plastic, so little barnacles, mussels, corals, again, it loses its buoyancy again, and then it sinks back to the ocean floor again. So again, like, the vast majority of plastic in our ocean are usually within 40 to 50 kilometers of our major cities. The vast majority of it is actually pretty close. So on a more positive side of it, we really think it is possible to remove all this plastic from our ocean. We also think it's possible there to stop all the plastic from getting into the ocean. With one of our technologies for stopping plastic, we call it MPED, MPED. That stands for Microplastic Elimination Device. The MPEDs themselves, we filter the water down to the size of 65 microns. Again, so we stop all plastic particles down to 65 microns. We're hoping later this year to bring it down much smaller, again, inside the rivers, that we can actually, again, filter all the recycling facilities on the rivers, put proper systems in place to stop all that microplastics getting to the ocean. As well as that, of course, retrieving the plastic that's already there. The amount of money that's been pumped into the environmental space to retrieve plastic is enormous. but people that actually can do something about it don't really receive it. I mean, we have never received as much as $1 from any government, any agency around the world for collecting plastic. Not a dollar. And there's plenty of good organizations out there that do really, really good work, and they see nothing.
Yeah.
They see absolutely nothing. What happens in the environmental world is people write white papers and they say the problem is really, really bad, and all these billions of dollars disappear on people speaking about the problem versus actually doing something about the problem. That has been the problem in the environmental space forever, and it's not getting any better.
Yeah. Wow. Pretty interesting insights. So, Captain Kelly, like, how can we prevent plastic pollution?
Well, how we prevent plastic pollution, again, like, you know, let me answer in two different ways. Let me explain to you really first, like, you know, what's happening and why we're getting so much plastic in the ocean.
Sure.
The biggest reason for plastic, I see people on a daily basis and they hashtag Coca-Cola and they look at PepsiCo and they look at all the Dows and the Exxons and the Chevrons, and they blame all these massive companies for the problem of plastic waste. I don't. I don't blame Coca-Cola for as much as one bottle inside the ocean or the river. We don't get any money from Coca-Cola, so I'm not saying it for that reason. I'm not an advocate of Coca-Cola or any of the petrochemical companies. But let's be real. Let's be real and let's be honest about what's happening here.
Okay.
The problem around plastic waste is the big thing is poverty, right?
Yeah.
We have a brutal problem on this planet, and poverty is creating so many different problems.
Yeah.
With poverty, we have problems with waste management, lack of waste management.
Yeah.
Governments around the world are struggling, especially in the developing world. There's no proper waste management programs in place. There's not proper recycling in place. And the people inside in the villages living on the rivers and so on and so forth, the way to get rid of plastic waste is to get it away from the house as far and as quickly as possible. And if you are a really good parent, and if you have your house with your children, that's what you're going to do. You must get rid of that plastic, get it away from your home as quickly as possible. So you either burn it or you dump it. That's what they have to do. They have no choice but to do that. So to blame large companies for that, I think is, again, counterproductive. Again, the companies are providing a service. Again, they're providing products, whatever it may be. And again, our governments need to have proper infrastructure in place to handle the plastic waste that's being used. As for the most part, we have to reduce the amount of plastics we're using. We have to definitely recycle all the plastic we're using. No doubt about that. We have to stop burning the plastic we're using. We have to stop dumping the plastic we're using. Those are the solutions. But again, to point the finger at countries as a whole, and I see Western people are very fast to point their fingers at people in the developing world and say, these people, again, they need to educate these people. It is very disturbing to say that people are ignorant. That is borderline racist in my eyes. It has nothing to do with an education of people. People in the household, the mom, the dad, the grandmother, the grandfather, they know plastic is a problem. They're well aware of that. They also know they have to get rid of it and get it away from their house as quickly as possible. Otherwise, it'll bring in disease and so on into their homes. They know they have to get rid of it as quickly as possible. And again, like, you know, to blame large corporations for that side of plastic, again, that is not true. We have to look in the mirror at ourselves. We're the ones creating the problem. Again, and we have to point our fingers at our governments for not helping, not having the infrastructure in place to handle it.
Yeah. Very true. We need waste management. I mean, governments and organizations, they need to have proper waste management. So can you let us know, Captain Kelly, like your organization, Ocean Integrity, where you're the CEO, how, what your company does and how it helps other organizations?
Of course, we look at the collections of plastic. We look at it and we, again, like, you know, we look at the people that's been affected the most by that. And it's always fishing communities. It's always these indigenous fishing communities. If you look at in your country or in this country where I'm in Indonesia at the moment, it is the people on the mouths of the rivers are always fishing communities.
Yes.
Those are the people that are decimated because of this plastic waste. So we always work with these communities. We always help those communities again by collecting plastic. We pump revenue into these communities for doing that.
Wow.
So we look at, like, you know, there to try and get the fishermen to collect the plastic waste. They're already collecting it. There's so much of it in the ocean. So we try to get it. We have a program in place that we work with these fishing communities. These fishing communities collect plastic. We take the plastic off them and we pay them for that. That's the way we operate. We look then at the use of plastic at the backside of that, what we'll do with it. We don't landfill plastic. We don't burn plastic. We don't use plastic for plastic to energy. We don't do anything of the sort. We use plastic again. We push it into the building of homes. Use it for aggregate for the building of homes. We'll use it again. Like, you know, there we'll recycle what we can. The other stuff that's harder to recycle usually ends up in aggregate, or it'll go into road surfacing. You know, towards asphalt programs. We're partnering with a couple of really interesting companies. Again, that can actually take the likes of any kind of plastic, and they can use it again to produce different materials and different products with it. And that is a way to do it. The likes of these small little pieces I have here inside my hand. These are made from a mixture of all 7 types of plastic. These plastics themselves become an aggregate. And these aggregates go into building materials. They go into building blocks or whatever. These are 100% plastic. They're super light. They weigh about 20% of the weight of a regular stone or rock that you would use in a concrete. So we produce the likes of these with them with another company. So again, it's the likes of coming up with real solutions for it. The potential globally making the likes of these is absolutely enormous. Every single country around the world can be making these. We can stop pulling our mountains apart, mining the likes of sand and stone and everything else. Like for building materials, we can use the likes of these. All our plastic waste in the world can end up with these small little particles. Again, we can use it to build our homes. Again, instead of destroying our nature and our planet, we can actually use it for a common good. Again, like, you know, there and house people.
Phenomenal. I mean, Captain Kelly, it's phenomenal, like, right? The way Ocean Integrity is doing things. I mean, like, even I didn't know that until you show it to me right now. So it's pretty interesting, right? Yes. So thanks, Captain, for your explanations. Would you like to give any final message to our viewers and the people listening? A personal message, probably. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, I guess the one thing we're an environmental company.
Yeah.
Be under no illusions. I'm an environmentalist, but we're pro-business. We try and help businesses. We try and empower businesses. Again, like, you know, where we can fulfill all their ESG requirements at the same time help clean up our planet. We see it like as a win-win. At the same time, we empower indigenous fishermen, and we turn around, like, you know, there, and we get them to clean our ocean. By the indigenous fishermen working on plastic retrieval, again, they're not harvesting seafood. So it brings more and more. It helps rejuvenate biodiversity inside our ocean. There's so many different moving parts to it, and it's so important, like, to follow it. But again, your listeners can follow us on Facebook at Oceans Integrity on Facebook, or they can follow myself on LinkedIn, Captain Kieran Kelly.
Yes.
On LinkedIn, my LinkedIn page, or again, they can find us on LinkedIn or our LinkedIn page, Oceans Integrity also. But again, our website is info@oceans, OCEANS, integrity, INTEGRITY.com. So oceansintegrity.com, you can find us on that.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do is once this pod is uploaded on YouTube, we'll be mentioning all the links. So for all those who are watching, you can check Ocean Integrity's Facebook page. You can follow Captain Kieran Kelly on LinkedIn, as well as you can follow me, and you can check out their company Facebook page as well. So it's a very good message, Captain, which you have emphasized very clearly, right? So I'm sure even some institutions who do courses about sustainability and everything, they might have not covered certain things which you mentioned in a short time. So you have articulated it very well, and it's well emphasized. So please follow Captain Kieran Kelly. So this morning also, when I checked on LinkedIn, I saw some very interesting things he has put, and there are some very interesting videos he has put on his page. So some great content is there. So Captain Kelly, we thank you for taking time from a very, very productive schedule and doing this podcast with us.
Thank you very much. And finally, remember one thing.
Yeah.
We only have one ocean. People want to remember that. Also, we've only one race of people on this planet, and that's the human race. We're all brothers and sisters. We're all in this together. We have to fight to restore integrity back into our ocean. If we don't do that, shame on us.
Absolutely. Wise words.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.